latest UN report on climate change highlights the reality and severity of climate in our present day. These are some of the key takeaways. Number 1, humans are completely to blame. According to the IPCC, undoubtedly, human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. In the past decade, concentrations have continued to increase, and humans continue to contribute to changes in precipitation, the global retreat of glaciers, sea level rises, and changes in the land biosphere. Number 2, things are getting extreme. The global surface temperature has increased faster since 1970 than in any other 50-year period over at least the last 2,000 years, and all regions of the world are expected to experience further effects of this. Hot extremes have become more frequent since the 1950s, and according to the report, every decade we now experience the kind of heat wave that used to happen only once every 50 years. If the world warms by another degree Celsius, this could shift to twice every 7 years. Number 3, many climate changes are irreversible. Human activities affect all major climate system components, with some responding over decades and others over centuries. According to the report, greenhouse gas emissions since 1750 have committed the global ocean to future warming, and changes to the global ocean temperature are irreversible. Oceans absorb most of the excess heat from greenhouse gas emissions and hit the warmest level in recorded history in 2019. Mountain and polar glaciers are also predicted to continue melting for decades to centuries. The IPCC concluded that continued ice loss over the 21st century is virtually certain for the Greenland ice sheet and likely for the Antarctic ice sheet. Number 4, we are now estimated to cross 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming in the 2030s. Unless there are immediate and effective actions taken to reduce carbon emissions, according to the report, the world will reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming limit agreed by signatories to the Paris Climate Change Agreement in the next 2 decades. A rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius is generally seen as the most that humanity can cope with without suffering widespread economic and social loss. Number 5, the only way to limit global warming is by achieving net zero carbon emissions. A global net zero is a balance between the greenhouse gases put into the atmosphere and those taken out. To reach net zero emissions by 2050, annual clean energy investment worldwide will need to more than triple by 2030 to about $4 trillion. While net zero carbon emissions is a critical longer-term goal, big emission cuts, especially by the largest greenhouse gas emitters, are key in the next 5 to 10 years in order to keep global warming to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius and safeguard our environment. It's important to understand that most emissions come from just a few countries. 10 states alone contribute to 68% of greenhouse gas emissions. China, the USA, the EU, Russia, India, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Iran, and Canada. This report highlights the reality of our world today, a code red for humanity as described by the Secretary General of the United Nations. And if the world continues on its current course, temperatures could rise by 2 degrees Celsius by 2060 and 2.7 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. And even if emissions are slashed in the next decade, average temperatures could still be up 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2040 and 1.6 degrees Celsius by 2060 before stabilizing. Leila Johnson Salami, Arise News.